Hello Year 3, so it's my turn to read you The Train to Impossible Places, and I've been listening along to it with Mrs. Crowther and Mrs. Gibbons, and it's a really good book, isn't it? It's getting very exciting. So I think Mrs. Crowther left you when you were halfway through chapter 9, so that's where I'm going to go from. Susie scrambled down the ladder to the footplate. It was just a short hop across the gap between the tender and the HEC, but Wilmot extended a hand to help her anyway. "Is everything all right?" he asked, closing the door behind her. "Fine, I think." She looked around. If the HEC looked a bit like an old tanker from the outside, the inside looked more like the belly of some mechanical whale, braced by wrought iron ribs. 2 large circular hatches were set into the ceiling, with another larger one in a side wall. The far end of the carriage was taken up by machinery that looked like it might have come from a Victorian mill. Flywheels and pistons and dials and springs were all pressed together in a combination that might have formed a pump, or maybe some sort of generator. A swivel chair and a complex control panel were mounted in front of it. The area of the carriage where she had and Wilmot stood was full of clothing racks, from which hung what looked like suits of armour. Closer inspection revealed that some of them were just that: dented steel plate, rusty chainmail and heavy visors, clearly designed with the long ears and nose of a troll in mind. Other suits were more unusual. There was one that looked like a spacesuit, made of padded silver fabric, complete with heavy boots and a reflective domed helmet. Susie wasn't encouraged to see a number of strips of tape covering what appeared to be burn marks in several places of the suit. "Welcome to the HEC, said Wilmot, "the hazardous environment carriage. We wouldn't be able to make half of our deliveries without her." The carriage juddered around them, and Susie had to brace herself against a sudden deceleration. Stonker must finally be applying the brakes. "You're sending me into a hazardous environment," she said. "Normally you'd have to complete your training before we'd allow you to do something like this," said Wilmot. "But you did a good enough job with Lady Crepuscular that I think we can let you off. What do you say?" Susie looked out of the nearest porthole at the express, finally came wheezing into a halt. The Narrows looked calm and inviting. She was about to answer when the whole carriage gave another sharp jolt, and she felt the floor drop beneath her. In a panic, she saw the waves rise past the portholes, the churning foam swallowing them bit by bit until the sky was lost from sight. "We're sinking," she exclaimed. "Actually, we're diving," said Wilmot. "It's like sinking, but on purpose." He crossed to the nearest rack and lifted one of the suits down. "You'll be needing this." "A diving suit?" He nodded. "It might be a little tight on you, but it's top of the range. At least it was when they were made." Susie took it from him and looked it over. It was similar to the spacesuit, but instead of silver fabric, it looked like it had been stitched together from old tents. It had thick rubber gloves sewn into the sleeves and heavy metal boots sewn onto the legs. The helmet was a dented sphere of bronze, with 2 large glass eye holes in the front and a long flexible canvas sock on the front for a troll nose. One end of a thick red hose was attached to a nozzle in the top of the helmet. "I don't think I'm quite as good at this job as you think I am," she said. "And I've never been diving before. I haven't even got my bronze swimming certificate yet." Outside the portholes, towering clusters of bright pink coral were rising into view, teeming with clouds of tropical fish. It was very beautiful, but she was too nervous to enjoy it. "Couldn't you do it? You seem to be an expert." "Gosh!" Wilmot seemed flustered by all of this attention. I'm not sure I'd really call myself an expert." His shy grin suggested he was very happy that she had called him one. "I passed all my theory tests, but there's still so much to the job I haven't done yet." "Why not?" she asked. "How long have you been doing it?" "Just over a year now, ever since I dropped out of school." "You were in school?" This surprised her. "How old are you?" 150. "How old?" "I know," he said, blushing. "I'm the youngest troll ever to hold the job. Normally, I'd have spent a few decades in the Postal Academy, started as a junior postie, and then worked my way up. But the Troll Post had been understaffed for years, and when Dad died, I was the only one who could take his place. He blushed even harder. The Impossible Postal Express has been a hobby of mine since I was in nappies, you see. I'd studied all the postal routes, the delivery prices, the rules and regulations. It's a great privilege to be here. This confession only served to renew the sense of guilt gnawing at Susie's insides. I'm sorry about your dad, she said. I had no idea. Wilmot smiled, though there was sadness in his eyes. He died with his boots on, he said. That's all any troll can ask. Susie wasn't quite sure what this meant, but she was now preoccupied by another question. So how long do trolls live? Most humans are lucky to live to 100. Really? Wilmot looked horrified. How do you get time to do anything? We keep busy, she said. No wonder, said Wilmot. Most trolls can expect to live to at least 1,000, although I know lots who are older. Like Fletch, she said. He told me he was 1,010. And still 2 centuries from retirement, Wilmot sighed. It's an old joke of his. He's always been 2 centuries from retirement. We trolls like to work until we drop. Susie shut her eyes and made some rough calculations in her head. I think, she said, opening one eye again, that 1 human year must be about the same as 12 troll years, roughly. How old does that make you in troll terms, then, said Wilmot. Another quick calculation. 132, she said, and she laughed. It was my birthday last month. My cake should have had a lot more candles. And how young am I in human years? 12.5, she said. They both laughed, and for a moment Susie's fear of Lady Crepuscular felt very small and far away. I might not have all the experience I need yet, said Wilmot, but this pickup is part of the job I have done before. So trust me when I tell you that you'll be fine. Besides, I'm here to help you. He skipped to the strange machine at the opposite end of the carriage and flipped a few stitches on the control panel. The machine wheezed into life, its flywheel turning, spewing a cloud of dust into the air. This will keep you breathing, he said, between bouts of coughing. Are you sure it's safe? Absolutely. This troll engineering guaranteed to last a century or your money back. And how long have you been using it? To Susie's alarm, bits of the machine seemed to have been repaired with the same tape as the spacesuit. Oh, don't worry about that now, he said, a little too quickly for her liking. You'd better get dressed. The quicker you get out there, the quicker you'll be back. We're still behind schedule, remember? He took a seat at the controls and began fiddling with the machine. Susie looked at the suit again. There was no obvious tears, although she wasn't sure just how waterproof the stitching between the various sections of fabric would be. Still, it wouldn't matter as long as the air pressure inside the suit was strong enough to keep the water out. Pressure is measured in units called atmosphere, she told herself. Pressure at the surface is 1 atmosphere. Every 10 metres of depth increases the pressure by 1 more atmosphere. A glance out of the nearest porthole suggested they were about 20 metres down, so 2 extra atmospheres, 3 atmospheres in total. She still had no idea whether the suit would hold the water out, but the calculation had made her a little calmer at least. And we're going to leave it there for today. Tune back in tomorrow when I continue the story. Bye for now.